On today's show, the SimUcube2 Pro Wheelbase. I'm Shaun Cole, this is the Simpit, and today we're here to take a detailed look at the SimUcube2 Pro Wheelbase. This is a monster-powered wheelbase that produces 25 Newton meters of power and comes in at about $1,400. The SimUcube2 Pro wheel also features super fast response time, ultra smooth movement, and wireless connectivity to their wheels. This is a base only, meaning that you will need to add your own steering wheel, your own quick release, and your own mount for your rig, and SimUcube does offer all of the above. Or you could go with a third-party wheel, which will end up with the inevitable wraparound cable. Any of these scenarios, the base itself starts out at $1,400. Now, before we get too far into this review, I do need to issue an apology to SimUcube and to the community at large. This wheelbase was actually sent to me a couple years ago at a really tough point for the Simpit. It was a point where we lost our studio and we were actually off the air for quite some time. And in doing so, the review of this wheel got shuffled around and eventually lost. And here we are a couple years later, finally getting to the review. So I very much apologize to SimUcube and to all of you who've wanted to see this wheel featured on the show prior to this date. And ironically, this wheel has been seen on the show numerous times because it has been one of my go-to wheelbases over the years. Now, to set this review up properly, we need to go back in time. There was a time not that long ago where if you wanted a direct drive wheel, you only had two different options. Number one, a Leo Bodner wheel with a price tag that was going to cost you well over $3,000. And the other was the OSW, the Open Sim Wheel Project, where by using some freeware along with matched electronic motors to go with it to create your own DIY direct drive steering wheel. However, that really wasn't for everybody. It was very much the Wild West, the DIY world of the unknown, and again, not for every sim racer. But it was SimUcube who changed that and took all of that information, made it mainstream, and made their own direct drive motor to go along with that software to bundle it up in a package that was for your everyday sim racer. And now there are a lot of direct drive wheels on the market to choose from, most of them resembling this one. Now let's get back to the review. So the SimUcube Pro 2 wheelbase does go for $1,400 as I mentioned, and it does produce 25 Newton meters of power. SimUcube also sells a lighter motor, the Sport model, for about $1,000, and then the Big Daddy, or the Ultimate, for over $2,600 and produces a whopping 32 Newton meters of power. All of the SimUcube bases are PC only, and the Sport and Pro models come with a 2-year warranty and the Ultimate a 5-year warranty. That is pretty impressive. The Pro model direct drive wheel comes in the standard shape that we've become accustomed to when it comes to direct drive wheelbases, which is basically the shape of an electronic motor. Now this one does have a semi-cross shape with smooth edges made of CNC machined aluminum. It is dressed in a really nice anodized black finish with exception to a silver trim line separating the front and back halves of the case and a SimUcube logo on both sides. At the front of the base is the pre-mounted, in my case, wheel side of the SimUcube quick release system, also in black and with the SimUcube logo on it. The quick release will set you back an additional $67 and it is not included with the wheel. Also on the front are the large threaded M8 mounting holes in the 102.5mm pattern that has become synonymous with direct drive wheels. These are the only mounting holes on the base. The back side of the base is where all the connections are made. My original model here has the dual power supply inlets. More current versions use a single power supply. And there's also a plug-in for the USB, the emergency stop, an expansion connector, the power switch, and the screw-in spot for the antenna if using SimUcube wireless wheel rims. The overall look of the base is fairly plain, but it has an overwhelming look of strength, and coming in at 24 pounds of mostly made of metal is super heavy. Inside of the case are some of the fastest electronics in the industry. When it comes to mounting the SimUcube2 Pro wheelbase, you're really going to have to think about or consider its weight first, followed by its power when considering what rig to put it on. You're gonna need a strong rig. From there, if you look up SimUcube mount on the internet, you will find that just about every rig is compatible with these wheelbases at this point in time, and a bunch of manufacturers make various different mounts to put it on various different rigs as well. And that is a luxury of being the DD standard. This includes the two options that I am using for this review. One from R-Seat that is built for this rig and this wheel, and the other from Derek Spear Design in orange. You will also find profile chassis mounts as well as adjustable mounts, including the stock one available from SimUcube for $67. From there, it is 4 simple bolts through whatever mount and into the M8 threaded holes on the base. When it comes to mounting a wheel to this rim, it really is up to you. What is your budget? How much do you want to spend? What type of wheel are you attracted to? Are you going to be changing out rims all the time? My base came along with the quick release mounted to the base, along with the wheel side quick release that I could mount on any 70mm bolt patterned rim. Over the years of using this wheel, I have tried a handful of different wheel rims, but for today's review, we're going to go ahead and use that GSI Formula Pro Elite wheel. Well, because we can. So 6 small bolts later, we have a wheel ready to go with the base. This quick release is an interesting system. It sort of has a V-shaped wedge that allows the wheel to slide into a set position on the base. You then use the SimUcube locking pin to secure it. This is one of the strongest wheel-to-wheelbase connections that I have ever tested, but that wasn't very quick. Removal of the wheel takes even more time and requires removing the pin and then kind of bumping the wheel to get it off the quick release. Be careful not to drop your expensive wheel while doing this. Again, not really quick, but certainly strong and secure. In most cases, unless using a SimUcube wireless wheel, you will be dealing with a wraparound cable and an independent USB connection. The software that controls the wheelbase is called TrueDrive and can be downloaded directly from the SimUcube website. This is a powerful piece of software that gives you a lot of control over the wheelbase's features. This can be done using their basic controls of the wheel without getting into a lot of detail, but TrueDrive also has an advanced mode that gives even more settings to adjust or even overwhelm you. But don't worry, because it is the cloud-based aspect of the software that I really love. It allows you to download and use wheel configurations created by others, in some cases known sim racers. There are settings for just about every driving game and car combo out there. I personally used a Dan Suzuki setup for iRacing as a starting point and then made some personal adjustments to get the wheel operating exactly the way I want it to be. With the wheelbase mounted in my rig, my favorite wheel rim attached to the base, and the software up and running, ready to go, it was time to drive this thing out on track. And I will say, the first thing you're going to notice the moment you put your hands on this wheelbase is just how free-moving and very smooth it is. SimUcube states that this wheelbase has very little cogging. And I can say, with the power on or off, this is one of the smoothest turning wheelbases that I've ever tested. There's almost no feeling of steps, indents, or cogging. That is almost a surprise, as it is one of the strongest wheels on the market. Therefore, less surprising is the sheer feel of strength in this setup. I'm not even talking about the force feedback yet. I'm talking about the strength of this wheel, the SimUcube quick release, and the wheelbase and the mount. I'm going to go ahead and say this is the most robust, most unmovable, most unbreakable, while still with an actual removable wheel setup that I have ever tested. The wheel is a beast. With that, let's move on to the topic of force feedback. This wheel is capable of an abundance of wrist-breaking force feedback. I mean that as a warning. The first adjustments I made was turning this wheel down to a level that was best for me. In iRacing, that meant a TrueDrive software setting of about 75% power and an in-game setting of only 3.8 force feedback strength. That was about the level I like my overall force feedback, and that left more than enough power in reserve that I would never need or touch. Clipping of the force feedback or exceeding this wheel's power will not be an issue for me or anyone else of normal human strength. Did I mention this wheelbase is a beast? That is where this wheel becomes Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or somehow 2 wheels in one. By that, I mean despite its tremendous power, it is also capable of very delicate feel and effects. This does translate into effortless turning when running laps as well. I do love the high speed, low friction the SimUcube motor has, and it just allows the force feedback to hit the wheel that much quicker. This is also where I think the SimUcube wheel might be capable of a larger range of force feedback power than other DD wheels. It seems to be able to deliver forces very, very low and subtle with a wheel that still moves freely and ramps up to power well beyond my own personal strength. It delivers all of the main game forces with vigor, such as oversteer and understeer of the car, and it does a great job of the less noticeable but still very needed effects of road noise, brake lockup, and rougher terrain. Another aspect of the wheel's speed is its reading. The wheel is very fast, has absolutely no lag or dead zone whatsoever, and it performs at the highest level. After many miles of racing, after many laps of driving, and after a couple of years of using this wheel, I have been more than happy with its performance. Other features of the SimUcube2 Pro wheelbase that come into play while driving, so to speak, are the clipping meter and the not in use power off that I like. If you run this thing on the verge of clipping or running out of power, it has an audible signal that can be heard notifying you so that you can make adjustments. I never heard this once my wheel was adjusted, but it is there. Another feature that I think is really slick is that if you don't use this wheel for about 5 minutes, it'll actually power down, which saves electricity and I would imagine is better for the motor. To re-engage it, you just need to push in the e-stop and twist it to release. All power is restored. Well, that tells you just about everything that you need to know about the SimUcube2 Pro wheelbase. It tells you how it performed on track, all the features that it has available. But to make it perfectly clear, let's go ahead and point out the most important aspects of this review with the good, the not so good, and the bottom line, starting off with the good, and that being super powerful. Very smooth, no cogging. Great force feedback. No flex, no wiggle, no wobble. Built to last. Small base for 25 Newton meters. Wireless, SimUcube wheels only. Good software, cloud-based setups. Clipping warning signal. Power off timer. High and low torque mode, great for kids. And now on to the not so good, the first one being pretty obvious, that being, it is very expensive. Must supply own wheel. Will need a special mount. Very heavy wheelbase, 24.5 pounds. Not a quick release. Wraparound cable. And now on to the bottom line. Way back when SimUcube turned the OSW wheel into a mainstream wheel for everybody, they did set the standard for what direct drive wheels of the future would look like, and even the price point and Newton meters that we'd all be striving for a long time to come. And you can see the heavy influence they've had on the entire direct drive wheel market. And on top of that, I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite wheelbases that I've ever used, even though it has taken this long to get to this review. And I can't even tell you how much I have hammered and beat up on this wheelbase over the years. I have done hundreds of races, thousands of laps. It has been on multiple different rigs using multiple different steering wheels. And when I look at it, when I use it, it still works as well as the day it was first brought onto the show. It is bulletproof. It is tried and true. So when I think about the not so good list and the things that bother me about this wheel, you've got the price, which is legitimate. It's $1,400. It's very expensive. Obviously not for everybody. This is pro level gear, as well as the fact that you're going to need to add to it. You're going to need a wheel rim. That's going to cost you more money, a quick release, and a mount, and a rig strong enough to hold it. So all those factors which are on my negative list are things to take into consideration, but they're also the kind of things that you'd expect, the kind of things you'd actually quite demand at this level of a steering wheel. The only thing that really bothers me in the end is the lack of a real quick release, but you don't have to use their quick release. You could put any quick release on it. So if you want something that just unlatches, the wheels come off, you're changing wheels all the time, you can make that change to the wheelbase and get exactly what you want out of it. So I think that tells you everything that you need to know about the SimUcube2 Pro wheelbase. It is a great wheelbase. If you don't have that much, you can go with the sport model. If you want more power than anybody in the industry has, you can go with the ultimate model, but maybe the bear in the middle is just right. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. Be sure to give it a thumbs up if you did. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you can find out when our next video comes out. And most of all, thank you for watching. This is the Simpit. I'm Shaun Cole, and I'll see you on the track.